Good evening, everyone. I am, of course, Sir, and tonight you're going to be joining us on Foxhole Community Media, which is something new that we're starting. Good evening, everyone. I am, of course, we Sir, are basically going to be talking about Foxhole. Tonight I'm joined with basically the best media people so far in Foxhole history. Go ahead and introduce yourselves. I think we'll start off with, I don't know, Duke Salt.
Hey, what's up? That is my name.
And I think we got Lurkus here.
Hello.
Stranger Days.
Hello, I'm the Stranger Days, yes.
And we also have our one and only good old voice, Stalt.
Good morning, everybody. Even though it's not morning.
Yeah.
I think we're all United States for the most part. It's like 7 o'clock here.
They're all waking up to the sound of your voice. We're basically dead inside, you know?
Yeah. There's somebody in the chat that's it's like 2 a.m. for them.
2 a.m.? What are you doing here? Please.
Playing Foxhole, listening to us.
You guys better things to do or something. Very nice for you to join us, though.
We're just start with the shaming already.
Yeah, hey, I jump right on the shame train.
I am Shame, yes.
Annie Strange. So, we've got kind of a mess of topics, you know, some big headers to talk about. I don't know. What do you guys think we should start off with today?
We could do chronologically and start with the Devstream from last week.
Hey, no, that makes too much sense. I like that.
I thought you were about to say that makes too much sense. We don't do that or something. You were about to disagree.
Who makes sense? So we got the Devstream. What was it? Devstream 13. That was the latest of the Devstreams. That was last week?
Yeah, last Tuesday.
Last Tuesday. We're gonna be doing this every other week, most likely. We'll see. But yeah, we've got the Devstream going on. It looks like the first thing they talked about was the checkpoint.
Yep, the border checkpoints. Yep.
That is a very interesting subject. It's only now I'm going out on a limb here. It's only necessarily useful on like the peak hours of Foxhole, but especially during the start of the war, that's going to see a lot of use. I imagine that importing and exporting BMATs will be much easier. It'll also be much easier to get materials onto the next map. Whereas before we had to sort of walk everything across, now we have this wonderful new border watch. So even if there's 60 out of 60 colonials, we can still colonials can still get their goods across.
And I think it'd also be helpful for if there's maybe the enemy is pushing into the next region, but they still have a defense on that other side, so that your truck or whatever doesn't get destroyed. You can just put it there and then it transfers over, so your truck doesn't get blown up by enemy fire.
That actually brings up an interesting point. I wonder if these are like universal. So let's say I put like, I don't know, a couple hundred basic materials in there. Is that retrievable by the enemy, or can I just like use that to like bulk up some items and store it and keep it there for the next one?
If I remember correctly, they said that they were a world structure, so they get destroyed, right? And you have to build it on both sides for your faction in order to use it. So I would assume that means that it'll like stay in the inventory there, and then like if it blows up with that stuff in there, it'll fall out onto the ground. But I mean, still, like, because one of the hardest things about moving to a new area is just getting all the into a new map is getting all the explosives you need safely across lines, right? If you have defenses up around your border checkpoint, because I'm assuming the border checkpoints are going to be a ways away from the map edge within the build zone. If those are protected, you can get all the explosives you need wherever you need them. You don't even need a town on that map. You can just have all the logistics you need on the other map and then ship it right over to an outpost just on the side.
Well, yeah, that's interesting too, because these do start, you know, destroyed, and you kind of have to prioritize what you build now. I mean, home region is one thing, but you know, as far as walking into a region and just having it ready to go, that'd be one thing. But as far as everything else, you know, you have to prioritize what you're building. So it's going to be kind of interesting how you use that, especially because you can still simply, you know, transfer over and bring a truck over, but this is going to be really, really good. And I think it's really more for preparation for the long term, too. We're about to have, early access happening within a few months, maybe. And that's when we're going to start hitting some peak numbers, hopefully consistently. I'd like to start seeing the World Conquest filled up at all times, if possible. And this is going to come in really handy down the line.
I think it's also just necessary logistically. Like, eventually this is something that we need to have, a way for players to support each other on other maps without actually physically going there when the servers get full.
Mm-hmm.
It will definitely begin making its mark once Foxhole gets its larger population out there. We have seen it a few times where we'll have a full solid 60 people on one map, 40 people on another, and then 10 people working on the back map. And that was awesome. It was amazing to see that. We will likely see it again at some point. It's going to be really good.
Though I feel like at some point they'll have to raise the player limit, and if they are able to, since the engine limitations are kind of limiting them from making it more seamless, I feel like if they are able to get it to be more seamless to where you can just walk and you don't have to wait for anything to load, maybe they'll get rid of them. I'm not sure, but it seems like now that these are added that they probably won't do a more seamless transition.
From what I remember, though, the transition wasn't really a visual thing. That wasn't the problem. It was the transfer of the items that was kind of giving them some hell. I know we hopped on the dev branch earlier today, spoilers, and that was the first time they had the trucks going across, mostly successfully. So, but that's even with the black screen and the transition. So visually, it would be kind of cool to just keep on walking and off into the distance.
Yeah, I did suggest one thing to Mark once. I'm not an expert at making developing games or how things have to run on them, but I did suggest something that maybe once you start getting close to the edge of the map and going off into another region, that map would start unloading and it would start loading the next map, so then it would be more seamless. But they would have to add maybe some type new terrain so that it wouldn't just be this weird transition.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing is you have to think about the optimization side of it too, going for the other players.
Because it has to load on all the other players, the items they're using, the vehicles, things like that. So it'd probably be pretty tough on the system.
When any of you were on the dev branch, did you notice the border structure at all? I didn't even see it.
They didn't have it. It wasn't there.
The model's in the game. In the game, though, I did see the model in the game. They did go with the one on the left there.
I guess they haven't just implemented the code yet, or maybe they wanted to focus on the trucks first.
That'd probably be a good idea. Well, it's probably really seamless once you get the truck figured out. This thing's a static structure.
I mean, can we just say, or can I just say, the dev team has really been picking up the work on the actual in-game side of things, because I have seen so much content come out in the past 3 weeks. It's amazing.
Yeah, even though some of the things are just small, it's still content. So
yeah,
just the feel of the game now that World Conquest is in is so much better. It's really awesome.
Definitely.
I have felt that World Conquest has been a bit odd. I'm not going to bring up the neutral scourge. That is not the problem.
The
problem, and this is completely from my point of view as a warden, is that the colonials don't seem to have very good clans. Take that how you will, but I have just when the neutrals hop over to the colonial side, we put up stiff resistance.
Am I the sole colonial here? Hang on a second.
Yes, you are.
We've gone far, far long away from the Devstream, that's for sure.
Man.
Yes. Well, we were talking about World Conquest. This is a rather natural transition into the next part.
It is, isn't it?
So I've just felt like I hear a lot of things about how the colonial clans all hate each other, like UBGE, the lower ranks are full of, but then Leo's always in chat being rather nice. 42DR has split up 5 different times, and they now have 3 clans that were spawned from various members and leadership positions.
Yeah.
And I don't really know about any other colonial clans. Oh, there's BLD. BLD, I've heard solid things about you.
I haven't heard anything bad of them.
I have.
Rather standoffish with y'all in the very first sort of, what is it? The when they went over there and it was in the shore, the clan clash, whatever it was.
Oh yeah,
we don't really necessarily want to get into any of that, but
yeah, it
kind of comes to us.
It's really just as far as that goes, colonials and all that. We're all players in the same game, but as far as that goes, the change in the way you play the game and how clans have to really run themselves has really taken a change. You no longer have a reliable time and date to rally around. That was the single most important thing that the World Weekly Wars gave us, and we no longer have that. Quite simply, so it's a little bit more stressful. We have a whole new game to learn, quite frankly, and it's for the best. It's got to happen.
Yeah, and it's just going to keep on changing.
It really is, and once we start getting injection of new players coming towards early access on Steam and all that fun stuff, I am looking forward to getting some fresh minds and some fresh bodies in.
I do know that Casper has plans on mass recruiting in our Discord. We've even changed the minion and training role to sub-minion.
Ooh.
So now we have regular minions, and then we have sub-minions, sort of like...
I thought you guys were a clan.
How deep does this rabbit hole go?
It goes pretty deep. Pretty deep. Let's hop on back over to Devstream stuff.
Devstream stuff.
We've got
about to say that.
field machine gun. We didn't talk about that.
I have. We don't have it in the Devblog, but I so look forward to it. I want to see what's its range. Does it do more damage? Is it just two HMGs glued together essentially?
I would assume
they
so.
said because it's so influenced by that one Flak 38 or 36 scene on Saving Private Ryan. I expect it to function a lot like that, regardless of how exactly it looks.
I wonder how fast you'll be able to move it, though. I feel like you'd be able to move it faster than maybe a little faster, though.
I'd hope a little bit faster, but you also got to think of how glitchy is it to carry an arty across the map? We're trying to carry something a little bit faster. Maybe though, especially on the new map.
They get a proper physics engine for vehicles and stuff. That probably fix itself.
Tank hitboxes.
I have to admit, one thing I do rather enjoy is that so the reloader for it is in a different seat, so I guess that means that you can't really run it as a one-man crew. You have to hop out and then hop into the side seat, and then you have to reload, and then you have to hop back in the main seat, and then you got to hop out and reload it. That'll be really hard to do if you only have 50 shots. With the HMG. Will it use HMG ammo is the next question.
Probably
or do we
not.
get all
that thing looks
huge.
ammo?
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is you're looking at something that's the equivalent of a flak, something higher caliber round. I just want to hear the sound of that thing. That's got to be nice, especially with the work they did to the howitzer. I want to hear this thing.
I actually have no idea what the ammo would look like or work like even, because I'm looking at the model. It looks a lot like just two HMGs slapped together, and then if it worked like the artillery, would you put individual ammo things that would take up their own inventory slot, like ammo shells, except they're clips of ammo, or how does that even work?
Well,
I'm sure it'd use HMG.
Yeah,
I'm sure it'd be
Everybody
HMG.
talk at once. If it does use HMG, one interesting thing to see would be if it one reload essentially uses several boxes of ammunition in order to facilitate the usage of more shots. One possibility that I think could happen, and probably not since you have a dedicated reloader, is imagine if it was just essentially belt fed, so every time you fire, every time you reach the bottom of the clip, it just automatically reloads and consumes another box of ammo. That would be rather interesting to see.
That would be nice.
Well, and that would make a little more sense, because the way that worked is you chain your belts together, basically, if I'm not mistaken. So
a wall of bullets. Try attacking Vulpine's Ledge now, Colonial Scum.
Oh, imagine a couple of these up on the new map in the upper northeast corner. With your back to the wall, you've got just these guys, howitzers, artillery, just all in front of you.
Oh,
yeah.
Speaking of Vulpine's Ledge, if whatever faction takes the new map is basically going to take Vulpine Ledge, because it's going to be so easy to get down there and take the armories and factory.
Definitely.
And from Vulpine's Ledge, you can easily push out. Well, actually, you can push out across the Danon coast, and then from there you could link up with a second assault force coming over from the other area, or the other entry point from the new map.
The colonial starting town is right above the North Star.
Yeah.
Well,
I also... whoops.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just, before you guys can continue on with like how going about that would work, I just want to go back to the field gun really quick, and I just wonder if, because since it requires 2 people, but I wonder if one person can still be sitting on the, like, using the gun while 2 other people push it. But
That
not
would
fire
actually
it, not
that
fire
would
it, but
actually
like
be
you can
really
still move it
humorous.
around, and then when you stop, you fire, move, then
Oh
fire
wait,
again.
God,
then
no!
move.
Don't give Casper any ideas. We're going
That-
to have to carry him
I
around
was
on
gonna
a
say,
throne.
yeah, that sounds like Casper's chariot right there.
Yeah.
He's just pushing him around.
I'm envisioning like this, those old school tractors, with that one metal horrible seat. Just some guy sitting up there, just pop, 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 reload, and you guys are just charging down the road at like half the speed of a truck.
Casper, he's just like, don't be jealous.
Don't be jealous, man. And that's
Just
actually
because-
an interesting
He
point.
has people willing to
Oh, yeah.
willing to carry him into battle.
I wouldn't be surprised if that happened though. It'd be pretty funny to see though.
I'd pay to see it, maybe. I'm curious though on the field machine gun. Do you think this thing is actually going to be widely used at all?
I
I'm going
feel-
to say
yeah.
I'm going to say yes, because let's look at several things. So the HMG is seeing a lot more popular use because it's able to, one, kill foxholes rather well. Also, people are starting to realize that the HMG is a great way to fuck up half tracks. Like, I had once held off 3 half tracks in abandoned ward back with the old refineries just because I kept on shooting them and they were like, "Oh God, we're getting damaged." They
do take
all
a
just,
beating, yeah.
Yeah. They sort of abandoned it because I had like 1 foxhole nearby on the ground floor, and they couldn't move up to kill the foxhole because every time they did, I would pop them with the HMG. If this is even just 2 HMGs essentially stapled together with that little front plate, that will be amazing. Because the
Yeah.
suppression. Also, another thing to consider, it is a vehicle. We now have the ability to bring vehicles across maps. That could be a great way to get your initial push going. Just push one of these across, set it up, and then from there you can start to pull in your other troops while it sort of fights back any defenders who come to stop you from entering.
I think it
Yeah.
depends on where in the tech level this thing falls. Because for one thing, it's going to be fantastic against infantry, but it sounds like it'd be so cumbersome to use and take so many people to use and take so many resources. If you're just fighting enemy infantry, you'd be better off with just 2 HMG gunners, or something like that, right? But on the other hand, if the enemy have pillboxes or bunkers, which they might very well have a lot of by the time this thing comes in due to tech levels and stuff, this thing isn't going to be that valuable. It'll be okay at suppressing pillboxes, right? And it'll probably tear the hell out of foxholes. But if they have bunkers, this thing is only going to get you to the bunker, and then you need artillery or smoke or satchels or all of the above to get through.
I mean, by the time you'd have these out, and by the time you're going to see like a field of pillboxes, I could easily see you just using them to suppress the pillboxes and then move up with infantry and satchel it.
I feel like it'd be a Tech 2 type thing if they want it to be used, at least for to some extent. It'd have to be like Tech 2.
What'd be kind of be interesting to see about this though is if for this to be like a stepping point, because the complexity of this gun type of thing isn't near as complex as say the half track. So imagine this being actually an earlier stepping point than like a half track would be.
I was thinking about like making it like a tier 1.5, yeah, and just kind of bumping everything else up a little bit or something.
Even just that the small 50 to 70 tech parts or so, just some small something. It would also force everyone to prioritize their tech parts even more.
Push the vehicle depot up to Tech 4 as its highest level. Have the 4th tech level be the artillery, 3rd tech level be the sort of half track, and then the 2nd tech level is this is our wonderful field machine gun.
Right, yeah.
But at the 2nd tech level, it also is less expensive than the half track was. Because as it is right now, I'm going to say it, the half track is pretty garbage until late in the game on a map that is just under constant strife, such as Deadlands. Deadlands is a great map for half tracks.
Hmm.
But on just like your standard Upper Heartlands or on Inlet Shore, I don't see the half track getting much use just because you're not on the front lines. That was
feel
also
like-
before we were able to bring vehicles across.
I think the reason that they've been so garbage in the past couple of weeks is just even because of World Conquest. Now that we have the ability to move stuff across borders, depending on how early you get these things, I think people are going to be mass producing these even more than they were half tracks.
I am looking forward to see the import of tech parts, especially with all of the starting regions now having no built structures. It's going to be rather interesting to see.
Well, that's going to be, I want to see the world team chat that they introduced to be actually something, useful. I feel like it's going to get spammed. I really do. But being able to coordinate without having to pop into different Discords is going to be very much quite nice.
Definitely.
I think I'd be okay if these were spammed. I really do.
As long as they're spammed with things that are important.
Yes. Well, important things, that's true.
I remember a couple times when they spammed half tracks, like just randoms, right? They made a dozen half tracks. We ended up killing 8 of them and capturing the next 4.
Mm-hmm.
So assuming that everyone's just as incompetent, there's less damage you can... If there's a whole bunch of randoms with these things, it's hard for them to accidentally get them lost, hopefully. And even if they do get lost, harder for the people who get them to go back and, screw people up.
Well, remember the days of Salt Industries, the guy would pump out nothing but, anything you wanted. And
hey guys, around when are we going to address some questions? Because some people have been asking things.
Questions? Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Questions? They are questioning us?
Questions.
For now, it'd be okay to just shoot them out.
Yeah, no, actually, keep them coming.
Do you think we should go over the questions that were asked in the dev stream, or do you think you want to do this first?
There wasn't
do the
anything
live
too
ones
huge.
first.
Yeah, absolutely live.
I think the border checkpoint and the field machine gun were the biggest points by far. Other than the Colonial tank, which we're going to get to see next dev stream. Other than that, I think that's the biggest point.
Yeah. Honestly, I could care less what design it was. I just want to see how the tanks look.
Heresy.
It's going to look like a Sherman. I mean, be real.
No, I refuse to believe that.
Yeah, I refuse to believe that
I
too.
feel like what's the U.S. light tank, the late war one?
Stuart. Or you mean Chaffee?
Yeah, the Chaffee. I feel like it'll look like a big Chaffee. For some reason, that's just what sticks out in my mind as being really colonial.
What really sticks out in my mind are all of the designs from the concept art that they showed a long time ago, which I have set as my my wallpaper. But
the one that
34, and the other one looks like some kind of Lehman Russ with no sponsoons, and I don't know if they're going to go with that still.
It's got kind of this, I hate using the term steampunk, but you look at any example of steampunk online, you take away 90% of the pipes, and I feel like that would be the perfect feel for some of the stuff. That kind of weird feeling, not quite advanced, but maybe advanced in a different way. A different timeline advanced. Maybe some scientist was never born. Type of thing.
A genius burst of inspiration.
Or got conscripted and died in battle.
In the Warden Army.
But I think of it more like a dirty, grounded diesel punk as opposed to a stripped down steel.
Yeah.
That's probably the term I was looking for. Yeah, that's what to say, yeah.
Diesel
a little bit more grounded,
punk,
no
gaslight.
weird bullshit.
Yeah, it stays grounded within the realm of World War I, World War II type things they used, but it still goes a little beyond that.
Art style wise, I'd say that one of the easiest ways to describe Foxhole is World War I never ended, but tech kept advancing.
Slowly.
Yeah, slowly.
With the industrial age showing in there, maybe. Yeah, that's actually kind of interesting because everything feels a little bit more industrious than the equal era counterparts. The manufacturing styles of the late 1800s carried on. That's actually a pretty good point.
You know what? Didn't they allude during the dev stream that this actually is Earth?
Yes,
they did.
They did.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was confirmed just this last one, right?
Is that old lore? Old lore isn't accurate anymore.
No. This is
fresh.
the last dev stream, that one we're talking about right now.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows? Maybe I have a feeling that it isn't. It's our Earth, but not necessarily has the same continents as we do now. Maybe it's like a Pangea type thing.
Well, one lore thought that was
It's
thrown
it's a
around.
it's a pretty far thing, but like I thought that
One
would be
one
interesting.
lore thought that was thrown around was the idea that essentially World War III happened and almost all tech was sort of lost because of this. At which point in time we could assume major geological events happen. I mean, you can only throw so many nukes before you start to change the literal face of the planet. Or Moabs, whatever.
Well, and that's actually an interesting thought. Imagine, and I know these tanks are just placeholders, but you have, the good old U.S. tanks sitting all around the map that you slap with the scrap, get components. But think about this: we had World War III, and we dropped a couple nukes. Why couldn't we drop a few more? Maybe USSR got a little antsy and started tossing them around too, and who knows? This could be very much the aftermath. We've seen. Callahan, with that kind of militaristic, style to him, on the statue. So maybe that's actually a good point.
And it could even just be like not even that, but just that maybe in the beginning certain events happened differently, leading to like a completely alternate history, like not even like the same, like not even same events that happened in our timeline, just like completely new ones because of like some maybe one little thing that happened.
Cold War wasn't cold anymore.
No, not even like that. Just like maybe from the beginning, like maybe way early on, like super early on in like Earth's history, something happened.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Actually, speaking of Cold Wars, and to kind of address Muscle's question, I'm pretty sure that's been asked a bunch of times of the developers, and they said that there are engine limitations right now where that's not really feasible. However, the new map does have trenches. There are trenches in this map.
They're part of the map.
Pre-made trenches.
Yeah,
they may
part
not
of the
be.
map.
Yeah.
Moving into the next discussion about current World Conquest iterations as well as the new map. I am loving it.
It's so good. I like it.
Also
I
hating
like
it.
Okay, this map. Oh my goodness, is flat.
It is just constantly snowing. There is nothing but snow.
I love it. Isn't it the best? It's like Christmas.
It's nice.
But not Christmas. Christmas with guns and blood.
It's Christmas with death. Yes, that's okay.
I'm excited to see tank traps. There are like large lines of tank traps. And then there are these lines of trenches.
I am very excited with the idea of being able to build tank traps because it would allow us to make a sort of easy to create obstacle for half tracks and later on tanks.
Yeah, but that's not happening yet.
I do hope that they decide to allow us to build tank traps because they also would make halfway decent sort of slapdash cover. You could just sort of throw them down and hope that you don't get hit in the face.
Would it be one way of...
They said that they want to. Like, they want to be able to let us make tank traps. The problem is griefing.
Yes.
Like that's what it always comes down to for them, is they have to think about how griefing is going to play into it. Because that just throws a wrench into the narrative and the
for one thing,
fairness of the battle.
I definitely imagine that the wrenches would be the way that you take out the tank traps. And for another thing, I imagine that you could just make them cost as much as barbed wire. I don't see much barbed wire griefing, if at any, so far. I'm honestly a bit surprised at that. I'm surprised that griefers... Well, I suppose that would require them to go and get BMATs.
Mm-hmm.
And griefers don't like farming, so...
Yeah, in general, on the new map, though, a lot of the towns, especially in the middle, I really like because... in general, the themes I'm seeing for the whole map is that all the towns feel like they've got a lot more care put into them. A lot of the roads are wider. They're a lot just more interesting to be in, and a lot of them feel really unique.
Like, yeah, they're not just like slap and paste towns. They look like they have like a history behind them that you don't know about.
Yeah, and White Walk, which is the town all the way to the east, that one is full of bushes, like snowy bushes and stuff. It's all kind you can hide in, and it's like nestled within some kind of like corner fortress remains
there with frag grenades.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes, the wall that dots this place, like separates the different areas, is awesome.
It's
And then
Yeah.
Crow's
If you've ever
Nest.
gone to
Crow's Nest is really cool.
Frost March, if you head north, there's a wall, a destroyed wall, but it's like an archway though. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah, and then
I'm
Crow's
wondering-
Nest has that awesome hill, right? Which is the only kind of elevation change on the whole map.
And the
Yeah,
dark
that
forest
is-
that's north of
Yes.
there's some small hills, but that is definitely like the only large variation
The
on the
spooky
ground.
forest to the north of Crow's Nest is so cool. I love it so much. It's so atmospheric coming down in there, and then the town starts. It's a huge town.
There's
And
also
then,
the spire too.
yes, which has
that town.
its famous, world famous rock right in the middle of town.
Yeah, it's like a very simple reason why, but it's interesting to see something like that.
The only
rock
thing
is
interesting in our
famous.
entire town is this one rock.
Maybe
Yep.
it's like some sacrificial rock. Who knows?
sacrificial rock.
They,
Where
maybe
Callahan
they,
died or
sacrifice
something.
a baby or something. I
A
don't know.
baby.
It's where Callahan held up Simba, of course.
And then even some of the less standing out towns like Dullin's Crest, which is kind of the middle-ish town towards the south.
Yeah.
That one just feels like claustrophobic, whereas a lot of the others feel like really spread out. There's a lot of cool roundabouts where roads will split at crossroads and be something in the middle, like trees or bushes or something. The whole map just feels awesome, and I really can't wait to play on it, especially
Yes.
with the bleak snow and I can just imagine people.
Can I
bitching
just
over
say
Void.
that this map
Oh, my feet are cold. Oh,
this map is missing something, and I think we can all agree on this. This map was built for tanks.
oh yes, it was. It
The
was.
tank combat is going to be beautiful.
It's going to bring tears to our eyes.
Can you imagine the bottlenecks actually on Callahan's passage too with the tanks? On that note.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like tanks are going to really change up the defensive game too, because once you get tanks up, you'll now have a way to break through. So even if they keep this hole, you need to control all 4 maps in order to win the World Conquest. I believe it won't be a bad thing necessarily once tanks are added, because they will make breaking sieges so much easier.
Mhm.
Sure, you
Oh.
might lose your tank, but losing a tank is nothing in the face of winning the war, right?
Absolutely.
Guys, I just
Yes.
want to mention one more thing about the map. I don't know if any of you've gone to that place, the graveyard on it. It's just
Mm-mm.
I just went to it right now, and it's this area that there's a pit, and there's just a bunch of destroyed half tracks, tanks, trucks,
Oh
tank
yeah, I was
traps
there a
and stuff.
second
It
ago.
looks amazing.
I
That's
really,
kinda
really
cool.
hope that the tank, whatever it is, there's a commander's position where you can use your binoculars, because it just doesn't make sense to not be able to. It should be the
Yes.
ultimate. There's places in
Yeah.
the back for just random soldiers to grab onto and sit. It should have
Oh my God, I love
driver and
that.
gunner position, right? And the commander should be able to look out with his binoculars, get shot because he's a jackass and he's actually sitting out of his tank.
Do you
but he should
think
be able to
they'll
use
go-
binoculars?
Actually, on the tank speculation, do you think they'll go, multi-seat where you have gunner, driver, commander, or do you think they're going to go sole person driving it?
Honestly, I think
The main thing that people have said is that probably at least 3 people. 3 people is a great number to work with, because then you can get a driver, a gunner, and a commander, or you could get a driver, a whole machine gunner, and then you get your actual gunner for the main cannon.
Mhm.
3 people is an easy number to work with. It's enough people to easily get together. Although I imagine that we're going to see noob tanks as well as pro tanks.
I like
like-
the idea of that whole machine gun you were talking about. It's like an optional seat, if you have an
Yeah.
extra guy you want to go with, yeah, great. There's an extra machine gun for him to use. If not a huge deal.
Yeah, I feel like the commander is actually going to be the only one who can see enemies outside of the tank,
That would be
and so
cool.
he'll have to
That
guide
was-
the tank.
That
Where
would
to
be
fire.
so silly.
I mean, yeah, it'd be
But
kind
I-
of
Azimuth.
hard, but it'd be completely plausible that they would do that.
What I have
It-
Gunner
talked
as a
about a
viewport
long
usually,
time
I
ago
think.
is that
Oh, yeah.
the commander could see maybe 20 or 30 meters all around the tank, and the gunner could see really far with his gun to the edge of his screen, right? But he could only see it within a cone of vision out of the gun. So the commander would either have to poke his head out to see farther, or he'd have to say rotate to the left, and then the gunner would see, and then he'd be able to fire or something like that. And then the driver also would only be able to see right in front. So if someone's sneaking up behind them to throw a grenade down or stick a potato in the tailpipe or something, the commander's the one who'd have to keep an eye out for that.
It's a potato.
Potato.
Yeah, if the tanks don't ship with sticking potato in the tailpipe mechanics, it's broken. It's unplayable.
Well, we've got snowballs in the game. You guys might as well get a potato, right? I'm actually
snowballs in the game.
Yeah, there's snowballs. It's in the files. I thought they were used
from a Christmas
back in
event last Christmas.
Oh, we might see another Christmas event, then that'll be fun to look forward to.
Especially on this hellish map.
Snowballs.
I wonder if we're going to have a spoopy update for Halloween.
Ooh, with the
I'd like
the pumpkin fields
to say an idea I have for a Halloween event.
I remember
it's
this.
nothing crazy. Oh well, yeah, I think you've heard this before. Like they had announced it maybe, and I was thinking more that it'd be like, oh, like
the
war's
dead
been
have
over
risen
for
to fight.
the war's been over for like 100 years now, but on one night, the dead soldiers from the war rise up again on like a blood moon, and pretty much the only things that would be different is that the player models would look like skeletons or like zombies, and
all of our vehicles would be destroyed, but would still function as normal.
And there'd be like a red tint on all the maps for like the blood moon, and it would be like a nighttime and like an eternal nighttime, but you could see everywhere still.
That's a pretty cool idea. I'm not gonna lie.
Also, replace town halls with graveyards.
Graveyards, evil tanks driving around.
The town halls are still there. There's just also graveyards, which then functionally act as the town halls, and the town halls don't do anything anymore.
So speaking of going back to the tanks real quick, looking at this new map, and I've got actually a screen cap up. I managed to get the gate glitch to get up on top of one of the walls rather easily, actually. Can you imagine, especially on that one that has like the archway, if you could sit up there, with your binos and your RPG and use it as a defensive point for hitting down, tanks and stuff. Just, I feel like some type of elevation play could be cool if they did it right. I've got it already on Callahan's Passage and stuff.
I'm going to say this now. Use it to spot for howitzers.
Yeah, definitely. You got the extra.
Howitzer play is great.
You're going to get about 140 meters
and ruin everyone's day.
Every truck that drives by, yeah. You do get a height advantage for binocs, so you're going to get 140 to 145 meters on your range for binocs on top of this thing.
Possibly even 150.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe. Especially you get about 135 to 140 on the gate alone, and this is a little bit higher than the gate, so definitely.
Yeah.
You think you guys we should move on to suggestions or ideas for suggestions?
We could move on to the Devblog.
Oh yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
Yeah, uniforms. My goodness, faction identity. Faction identity is so important.
Oh, the insignias or logos. Symbols.
Fashion hole, everybody. Yeah. Fashion hole.
Yes, I like the vehicle markings so much. I think both the logos are a little bit shiny. I like them, but I think the vehicle markings are awesome.
Yeah. They're amazing. I love them.
Now we'll be able to tell when somebody lost a half track or 20.
Huh.
You're just going to be running around and you're going to see like fucking three colonials in a warden half track. You're going to be like, oh god, I told them they should not have built 20 half tracks. But no, don't listen to the second lieutenant.
Well, yeah,
rank means nothing, guys.
Well, and
doesn't
rank doesn't mean anything.
Rank
of course it does, though.
Guys.
It's not
like it took me forever to get to second lieutenant. I may or may not know what I'm saying when I say don't spam half tracks. They'll just get stolen or lost for no reason.
In other news, these logos are nice.
Yes,
the logos. Nice. Oh man, I've already been having some fun redesigning the BLD logo and stuff with them.
Oh yeah, I saw that you posted it a while ago.
Is a bit bland, but it feels very empire-y or nationally.
Yeah, I look at that. I look at that and I think Federation.
Yeah,
actually,
like a Starfleet logo. Like I like it.
The colonial emblem makes me feel like the colonials lost all sense of civilianishness.
Yes.
Like the colonials are just an army.
Well, what it makes me could come from necessity.
Yeah, you know, someone, I don't know where, drew the connection that the Colonials were Crusaders because there was the sword, I guess.
Oh, I think I was the first one to bring that up, and then
yeah, so now
more people
everyone's
started
spamming
saying
Deus
so.
Vault all the time, and I think it's silly, but I'm not going to miss an opportunity to scream Deus Vault as I'm charging into a machine gun fighter or something.
Also, earlier, like right now, Casper did say he thinks the Warden logo is bland, but he also did say that it seems like it has a more like religious connection too. Not sure,
Yeah.
like
that was
not sure what you guys
interesting
think about that,
speculation.
but
it definitely, like, it almost resembles like a shield kind of sort of, which I think in general makes sense for them, right? Like it looks like some sort of, we're a great big established thing that's been around forever and we're going to be around forever.
Yeah.
So they hope.
Well,
sort of like McDonald's.
See, I was thinking of some type of royal feud. Is kind of my thought. You know, you've got Callahan, this big name, and I can't remember where I read this, but it was Mark Foote quoting that, or no, maybe it was Matt, that the Colonials did not come from the sea.
yeah,
they did not
say that.
Yeah, yeah,
And
I got that.
they're not pilgrims like trying to escape like their like disease or anything, like whatever. They're
which I thought was a neat
most
idea.
likely an army, just an army.
Especially
I do
with
like
the,
their.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, I was going to go back to the uniforms in general. I have liked them since they showed them. I think they look awesome and cool, and I can't wait for them.
I personally think like I love them. They look amazing, but I feel like the colonial ones could look a little more fictional because they still look like they're like people. I'm sure people would still mistake them for like the U.S. Army or something, and of course
Well,
the wardens look fictional enough, but like I could see somebody like for some reason just like saying, "Hey, they're French" because of their helmet.
Well,
Yeah,
didn't someone say that looks like the Canadian military helmet?
Yeah, that was no. Well, I was saying that the colonial one, the in-game model, I was talking about the concept art looks like American, but the actual in-game helmet, the model that they showed for the colonial helmet, has a similar shape to the Canadian helmet from World War II because it has a long backside and a shorter front side. I thought that was an interesting connection since the devs are from Canada, so I wouldn't be surprised if they use some of their country's culture and history to make the game as well.
Well, think about that too. I was actually thinking what they use for inspiration for the new map. You know, at first I thought Alaska, but I'm like, you know, Canada's, you know, there. It's the same thing as Alaska, so they've got to have some winter wasteland. Now in Toronto, they're not exactly winter wasteland by far, but you don't have to go far in Canada. Trust me on that one.
I think they talked about legit just Helm's Deep being an inspiration for the new map.
And the Eastern Front as well in World War II. They did say that.
I think the only thing that really makes the colonial soldiers stand out from just a World War II American soldier is the giant collar and kind of pauldron they have. And even like the wardens look remarkably similar to a French soldier during late World War I, except their trench coats aren't nearly as long. But of course, they weren't nearly as famous, so it's easier to look fictional, you know.
Though, like the actual model for the warden helmet, it looks a bit different than the concept art version. Like
That's true.
The little pointed part on top is further back, and the circle is like a little further up. So it looks a little odd, but I think it's for the best though.
I'm curious what that circle even does. Is that for insignia? Is it just a byproduct of the stamping process?
Like that, generally speaking, the reason why you put things up there is actually to deflect blades or things of that nature, which would denote that the wardens have more traditional armor and weaponry.
Yeah, they are more traditional. Like,
you know why the French helmet had that, right?
No.
Because it was derived, it was basically an exact copy of the French firemen's helmets, and that crest was meant to deflect debris and stuff coming off of it. Because at the time, they didn't have time to come up with their own helmets, so they said, okay, this fireman helmet's fine, and they just mass-produced those.
Well, you know, you look at I'm looking at the the Devblog right now, and it looks like the Warden rifle has a bayonet on the top
Yes, it
model.
does.
So it'd be kind of interesting to see
Bayonets.
some actual melee going on instead of just punching everyone.
That would be an interesting difference between Warden and Colonial. Like just maybe the Colonial rifle, maybe they get produced faster. They're a bit cheaper, but the Warden rifle, we get bayonets, so Wardens can affix bayonets.
Maybe even just that the Wardens have a way to melee with the rifle, but the Colonials can maybe have like a battle mace or a shovel that they use.
A battle
Or like that gets into
Pretty
another
much.
subject. So
The trench mace, I mean. Trench mace.
I believe that the tanks will be our first look into the Wardens and Colonials more as two separate asymmetrical factions, which asymmetry does interest me, especially in Foxhole, because we're going to have things definitely of similar nature, but the way we use them will be different. So one idea is that as you upgrade your armories, maybe you could get passive buffs to your past weapons to make them more important. For example, and I know nobody or some people want a sniper rifle, I'm against it. Maybe like at Tech 3 for your armory, your basic rifles get scoped, so you increase the range by 25% or something.
I'm interested. I remember them talking a long time ago about, or maybe, I don't remember who was talking about it, but like an asymmetry that doesn't come from design, right? Like the Wardens have this tank that does this, and the Colonials have this tank that does that. But if you remember the upgrade system they were talking about, imagine if you could choose all these upgrades, right? And they were so expensive, or this or that or the other, right? But such a way that restricted like your faction's ability to get all the upgrades at once. So just by the virtue of what your players chose within that World Conquest, your factions became asymmetrical by the choices.
Quick question before we get into this, because this is going to be a really big subject. Have we discussed all of the basic things we wanted to talk about?
I think the last thing was the stuff at the bottom of the Devblog, the 3 ideas for early game.
So here's a massive idea that I've thought of. And it is that we get capital regions, not just like how we have them now, but they're all the way at the back end of the map, and they sit in the back with unique structures that allow us to build bigger and better and badder things. Like maybe there is a supply yard that gives us basic mats just on a timer, and we have like a train yard where we can build trains and we can push those out to be able to bring resources more quickly between the maps. Maybe we have a tank factory which allows us to produce vehicles more with more efficiency than we would on the front line. So the front lines then become more about supplementing the forces that are up there, and then the capital region becomes about sort of providing this advanced technology, in which we could also get a sort of say not an armory but an arsenal, and the arsenal allows us to upgrade weapons. For example, we could get bayonets on rifles, which would allow you to do a rifle charge or fight against SMG troopers. Just all of these interesting ideas that come together from a capital region, and then you sort of pump tech parts into this region in order to upgrade these things. For instance, maybe the tank factory or the vehicle factory back there begins with just a sort of slow stream of vehicle parts or refined mats that you can just then use to build vehicles. You upgrade it, and then you get a sort of steady supply, and you can maybe eventually even pump out tanks for essentially free by like day 5 or day 7 of the war.
Here's an idea. The capital region has all that stuff already built, right? And it's actually worse than building on the front line, but it has the potential to be upgraded to be much better than that stuff on the front line. So in the early game, you're encouraged to go out and like grab as much land as you can and like develop the front line as much as you can. But after a couple days, it becomes much better to have longer, more thought out supply lines through the capital region with all its fancy upgrades. Maybe you can only make advanced stuff in the capital region after stuff has been upgraded.
Yeah. Well, and something that was thrown around was like, region-specific perks. Let's say End the Shore gets you a bonus to supply lines because you're importing and exporting via the water. Or, I don't know, Deadlands might give you a benefit to producing things like civic materials or spawn supplies and stuff like that.
Or Deadlands, you could just have access to the huge, massive artillery cannon and use that to bombard other maps.
Yeah, exactly. And just having these, not just a a war of territory, but a war of strategy as well. I thought, we already have a little bit of that, but taking that even further, even if it's just, one or two perks here or there, something to kind of offset everything. One of the biggest asymmetrical inspirations, that we could think of is Command and Conquer, or really Red Alert comes to mind, especially. But when they started to have the generals feel to it, or the different nations have different, abilities. If you could break that down to a location-based thing, you can't make it way too asymmetrical, because a lot of players might gravitate towards, the warden side for having a specific perk, for instance, or colonial for having another really good perk. But you have to kind of really balance these different types of perks out.
I feel as though one easy way to do that is to give both factions access to almost all of the same things, but then take an Age of Empires approach to it, wherein the colonials get access to satchel charges maybe a bit earlier, whereas the wardens get access to maybe artillery earlier. Each side gets sort of small benefits that they can get more easily. For example, if you had to research bunkers, maybe the wardens have cheaper research for bunkers, whereas the colonials, maybe they get an upgrade for foxholes earlier on in the game.
Well, and this is the kind of interesting point, was where you could make, upgrades cheaper per se. So let's take the idea of a everyday item. We'll go for the radio. Let's say we could take a radio, pump tech parts into a research structure in your home region or something of that nature, and then it just permanently unlocks the upgrade class for any more of those items reduced. So radios could maybe get a radius around you to detect an enemy with a radio or something stupid like that.
What if what radios do is when you're upgraded, you can actually see the other maps, and you can see your radio network on other maps?
That would be cool, like a range extension. I would love that, actually.
Oh boy, you guys brought up radios.
Radios.
I got stuff for that.
Radios!
I'm actually going to duck out, but it's fun.
Stop.
Keep going, guys.
Okay. See you, man.
Thanks for sticking around for the whole hour.
Yeah. Definitely.
Have a wonderful day, sir.
So radios.
Yeah.
Okay.
Radios.
Let me talk about radios.
Bring it,
God,
dude.
you all remember that huge
Your
fucking
paper
document I
shuffling,
wrote like
Marcus
months ago?
gets his radios.
Nah, I ignored it.
Because please, let's not go over that document.
I
It's
did
fucking-
read
No,
it.
no.
I did read it.
I made a document about radios and radio operators and stuff that I think would be interesting to talk about. That could also, it can connect to your capital region system as well, and like
Yes.
region specific things.
One
but
big thing
how would it
about the
be?
capital. One big thing about the capital region that I feel could go really well with other things, and this goes into something where I feel as though players with a higher rank should have a little bit more say. So imagine if there was like a top brass building. It was essentially you could do a supply drop, which drops a few chests into a region, and those chests are full of BMATs. Or maybe you could do an artillery strike, but you need a radio operator on the front line in order to do it. So you now have people carrying around these huge backpacks that are easy targets, but the thing is that they can now mark targets, and then somebody essentially all the way on the back line can press a button that says, "Eat dick." Just fill the entire region with artillery shots.
And yeah, like
Bombs.
what I was going to say is, like you said, radio backpacks could be a thing that could happen, and introduce two roles, maybe just one, the radio operator and maybe like a quote unquote officer, who is the person who is doing the spotting and like saying like, okay, there's like some defenses over there we need to get destroyed, and they call it in. On the map, it shows a general like circle of where they want to be bombarded. So maybe some artillery like on the back line, like you were saying, or just artillery on the map on that same region itself, could just fire in that general region in hopes to take it out, or like howitzers. And another thing that is a little iffy, but call in like airstrikes for like from like planes that aren't player controlled, but in a sense they can be. where on the back line or a region specific thing structure, like a radio control tower where players can be in there controlling it, and somebody's like, hey, we need an airstrike here, and someone in there will be like, okay, and they send a plane over, and the plane just flies over, drops a few bombs, flies away, or flies by, shoots its guns, flies away.
Strafes with its
Pretty
cannons.
much, yeah.
Well, that
Or
would be an
like a
interesting
supply
thing.
drop too as well,
Yeah.
where they drop like a box or
supply
two,
drop
yeah,
would
with
be
like
really
limited
awesome.
supplies, like
Well, like
20
what
ammo.
if you essentially have like the box has the size of a truck, so it's a little bit smaller than your regular boxes, and you can fill that up, and then you drop it on the ground. So you have to then put all of this stuff in the plane.
Yeah, so it's still has the players working to get that stuff out there, but the
Yeah.
plane itself isn't flown by a player. So just so then it doesn't like people don't abuse
Yeah.
planes, because planes are a very iffy topic, I know, with the community and the devs. But this would probably be a way to introduce them in a way where they can't be abused. And obviously these would be like a really like high tech level things.
So, oh, go ahead.
No, and I really think that removing the magic is really high in the devs' minds. They want least amount of magic as possible. I mean, I already slap a barrel to get a jerry can full of gas, but to keep some of that magic out. Yeah, I do like the idea of having like control towers and stuff. You could even turn that back into a world perk, or a region perk. A region could have the ability of doing supply drops, whereas you have to put stuff into it, designate a point, and it just goes there, after, I don't know, 3 minutes or something. But it requires someone to be sitting in that tower to accept the supply drop and send it. And then another region could have the artillery barrage. You have to put in the actual shells that you want, probably, I don't know, a mix of howitzer and artillery. And
No. You'd have to specially make the shells. You can only make the shells at the artillery piece.
Ooh. You don't think you should just use regular shells? Like a lot
No,
of
because this is artillery that goes from one map all the way across 2, maybe even 3 other maps to get to its target. So these are some pretty big shells.
You need, yeah.
Well, then, yeah, that's a good point. The other thing, though, is you can't just like
shells.
Well, yeah, you can't just take B-mats up to a cannon and go lol, shove them in. It doesn't work typically well. But imagine if there was some requirement of a logistics line, some way of having to get this stuff to this special structure.
Maybe we don't even need to go with full on like specialized perk things. Maybe we just have like a limited number of research structures across regions, and having more research structures means that you could research more of these extra options faster. So then control of these regions allows you to like have more of these things come into the game. That means that there's now intense fighting over these structures, but at the same time, you still need to put materials in them.
So I don't mean to like derail anything, but we're doing great on time, I think. Did we want to talk about the last 3 things on the Devblog, which is the subject is fixing the early game? I think they're really big like gameplay changes that the devs themselves are talking about implementing.
Last 3 things. Yeah, let's take a look at that. Actually, I've got it up.
The first one is world structures start destroyed, which they say they definitely want to do, and I think is a great idea. We all kind of do that.
Definitely will make the wars last longer, and make it so tech has a slower transfer to structures, since they won't even be built yet. So you'd have to build those and then take tech.
It'll definitely slow down the rushes.
I like how when you go into a town now that is maybe a backline town, everything's going to be destroyed. Just everything, all the garrisons, all the buildings, everything.
Yep.
It's so cool.
Well, that adds a little bit of strategy of having to pick where you want to go. You can't just spam every town hall and go lol, I'm ready. And actually, that's a good point with the World Conquest coming up. You have the limitation of not being able to build foxholes or any offensive structure certain distance away from your starting town hall, or sorry, your town halls that you own. And that's actually an interesting magical way of fixing the rush that I really hated Casper for. But I don't know. It's an interesting thing, and I think these world structures starting destroyed, especially across the board, that might be enough. But I really think that the radius around town halls should just simply be expanded. Don't be able to build a foxhole even remotely inside the the town. As of now, you can get one somewhere cheeky, and I can no longer get to my armory to take care of that foxhole, or something silly, or I can't respawn because I was spawning outside and I can't get back in. So maybe a further radius would be a better way of countering that, but especially combined with the world structures.
The other of the three things there, the other two are under consideration, right? I think the third one I like the best for sure, which is supplies for passive defenses. This is something we've been talking about for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It could be as simple as you have to stick ammo in a foxhole for it to shoot, but I think it makes a lot more sense just from an ease of use standpoint to have defenses be linked to outposts and town halls and even barracks, and then put some sort of supply, even if it's just ammo, in those barracks and designate them to be fed into defenses, and then have that be how defenses work. And if defenses aren't fed, then they don't work.
Well, that brings up a logistics consideration of, it's already kind of a pain in the rear to feed ammo to the rest of the world. Then I have to stop and think about this foxhole. It would be a good way of cutting down the spam of defenses, as far as early game especially. But I feel like it would really put a strain on logistics to a point where, at a certain point, you just crumble.
Right.
I can no longer get to my defenses. I can no longer feed them ammo. I'm just done.
On that subject, I actually have a really interesting idea for a sort of fix for it. Instead, nerf all defensive structures. Give them like 40% less health. But then you add a fortified bonus. So the fortified bonus is simple. Within a certain radius of town halls, outposts, and barracks, defensive structures, walls, foxholes, pillboxes, all of them, gain a bonus to their hit points and damage reduction, also maybe even fire rate. So if you're building foxholes out in the middle of nowhere, it's still a foxhole. It can still do things. But if you build them next to a town hall and it's in your possession, then suddenly your defenses are a lot more hardy.
Did they add?
Makes it... Oh,
sorry. Did they add structure decay
yes.
yet? Because I haven't noticed it. It hasn't felt like it's happened yet.
I think it's across like a 5-day period.
Well, it's because the second and third and fourth world conquests haven't gone so long. The first world conquest, when I was taking out warden defenses in Upper Heartlands, it only took like 2 grenades to take out foxholes because they were so decayed. That's old grenades, not the new HE grenades.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. I just never felt the effects or noticeable. I do like the idea of using distance away from town hall as some type of, marker for the effectiveness of your defensive structures. Theoretically, you're further away, you're not going to get your ammo as fast or something. And it was thrown around somewhere, I think in the suggestions maybe, of having some type of timer of a reload. Simply make the foxholes reload. It's kind of, crazy. You have some guy sitting there with a clip of rifle ammo, and he just keeps on getting them magically replenished. So take into account the exact same reload that you and I have, and just throw it into the defensive structures. Especially when you get to the tank, you could do the same thing with the turret. It almost already has a reload, but give it a maximum capacity. Whatever the tank has, that thing can carry, and then it has to take a breather before it can actually keep going. And that would be a really good nerf for doing it and not having to maintain it in some weird way. But you could also expand that. The distance from a town hall indicates the percentage increase to that. So if you're like way out in the middle of the map and you have no friendly town halls next to you, maybe it takes twice as long to reload or something silly like that. But instead of having to feed it something, you just give it a time-based debuff and carry on, really.
Huh.
I don't know if that was insane or not, but What was number 2 on the list?
Just activation time for team
Yeah.
structure.
Activation.
I feel like that would. I think it's a little iffy. I feel like it's something that is only that should only be a temporary thing, not something for the long run. Because like, what if they get so close that by the time the foxhole starts firing, or like begins to fire, they've already destroyed it. So it's
I
kind
don't
of like,
really like that
what's
change.
the
Just
point
generally.
what's the point of having that there if it's going to get destroyed before it even starts firing? But who knows? Maybe it'll start firing before they can even get close enough to destroy it fully, but I'm not sure. It's a thing that I personally don't really know if it's a good thing or not.
Well, you
I
could
think
use.
the other 2 solutions are much better. Just
I agree.
generally.
Yeah, we could take this. Let's make a fix for number 2. Why not use the activation time for something like a charge? Think of it as an accuracy thing. With no activation time, you're not going to be nearly as accurate. But the closer in that you get, the more accurate the foxhole is going to get. I don't know if that's currently a mechanic in any way. I doubt it. But it would be an interesting thing to think about range as far as accuracy goes for AI structures. That would kind of, cut down on the sting of like an anti-tank turret, especially. But you could use range to that effect, or as far as activation time, you could make it buffed with something like a watchtower or a radio tower. Any defenses within a radio tower has a normal amount of shoot and kill timing, but if it's out of range of a radio tower, isn't supported by a nearby radio tower, then it has a little bit harder time of finding the enemy.
Yeah, I could see that working as right. You mean more like in a it takes some time for it to get accurate to like while it's firing at you. Yeah, I think that'd be a better solution than what they proposed right now in the Devblog.
Well, and then you could even, like I said, give it some more importance to radio towers, because right now radio towers are kind of a single purpose, structure, and it's a really important purpose. But imagine if you could, give it something more, make that accuracy slightly better for any AI in there. Just a tiny, buff, but something. But maybe you could even make it require, a couple tech parts to upgrade that radio tower, or something silly like that.
Yeah, that could probably, I could see that working. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, I could definitely see that working. And like you said, it'd make for a better use or another use for radio towers.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything else major we wanted to go over?
I think that really covers it. I think we had wanted to talk about, the various suggestions that the community Oliver is going to see, but I think we've already thrown enough of our own suggestions into the mix here to keep it going.
Yeah, we could save for the next one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope they show some at the next Devstream, the ones that they're looking at, like they did not last time, but the time before, I think.
As much as I love the community highlights and how much it fuels the whole community attraction to the game, I do think they should take some time, and go into suggestions, even if they pick, their top 2 or something, and just elaborate.
That's what I'm saying. They've had them open like in Chrome tabs, but they haven't ever had time to go through them.
Yeah, there's
so much stuff.
Everyone just needs to stop being so creative.
Yeah, really.
I'm sorry.
And here we are on a stream.
guys, can I make a suggestion? We should be able to make trenches.
Actually, I think we desperately need hitches for the trucks and.
The half truck has a trailer hitch. The half truck has
guys, we should be able to tow artillery.
Yeah. Hey guys, guess what?
Wheelbarrow.
Oh god.
Wheelbarrow.
Oh god. Wheelbarrow.
So
I've actually used.
Oh, no,
I've done that before. I've used artillery as my wheelbarrow.
From like a 10 to like a 0.
Quality of stream just downhill. I I've actually used an artillery as a wheelbarrow before, though.
Casper said something that I didn't see. It's you're saying that like how you don't understand what I mean. It's just I guess it just seems like a thing that defensive structures should like, because like obviously a soldier would see you. They wouldn't like be like, hey, is that an enemy soldier? Of course that's more speaking about it in a more realistic way,
I think
but
a humorous
like,
idea, a very humorous
Sir's
idea for the
idea was
reason
a lot
why
better to me.
for the
Sorry.
reason why it takes so long for them to activate is because the soldier's essentially asleep at his post. Whereas in a town, you'd be well supplied. Probably there'd be guard shifts and rotations. Imagine you're like 2 guys sitting out in the middle of nowhere in like some fucking trees. You haven't seen anyone in the past 5 days. You're like, okay, hey buddy, I'm gonna go to sleep. Yeah, so am I. Then you hear running and shouting, and there's some bullets, and you're like, oh god, what's going on? Oh shit, we're under attack.
I think the original thing I heard a long time ago was that the activation time, like before it would be active, represented like a guy starting at a town hall or running from the town hall to the foxhole and then jumping in, and then he's ready to go.
Oh, that's so brutal.
Like in general, to me, it seems like the biggest thing is like, as much as I think the partisan tactics are a little bit OP sometimes, Operation Bite Curious, as much as I think they're OP sometimes, I think that with these other systems, if you put in the work to get all that material somewhere with a barracks or an outpost, you know, in their back lines to cut off their outposts or whatever, I don't think that it's fair to even keep restricting you. And I just generally think it's not that fun of a mechanic to build something and then just sit around tapping your foot to wait for it to start shooting.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of it's a magical thing, a magic idea. But that might be, you know, fixed with the idea of again, feeding it spawn supplies or civic supplies or something. That whole idea of having it have some type of requirement.
We need AI in Foxhole.
AI in Foxhole.
I need a whole AI squad I can just order around.
Yes. Foxhole needs to be running with rifles, but minus the loot dropping.
Banned.
Banned.
All right, guys. Well, I think we've hit the bottom of our barrel here.
We can descend more into madness next time and talk more about the idea of a capital region, because I feel like capital regions could be really awesome.
I want you to basically just recreate the entire discussion you had that one time about capital regions.
Right. So I can't remember the entire thing.
Not right now.
I come up with ideas on a whim.
JK.
And they leave as soon as they enter. But one idea that I think would be rather interesting is if you could make like vehicles and weapons early for a premium price. Like, can you imagine if you could get one half track out early on in the game, but like instead of costing $130, it costed $260?
It'd have to be more than that, but
it'd have to be a lot more than that. It'd have to be like $1,000 to make it actually acceptable.
That would be fair. I think $1,000.
Well, at the same time, you also have to think that you're having to bring these from all the way in the back. So there's probably like 2-3 regions between you and the enemy front line.
Oh, that's what the capital factories do. They allow you to build advanced vehicles for exorbitant costs, and after you upgrade them, then they can be more efficient than upgraded factories at the front.
Yes.
Here we go.
That's also why you have the train yards. So in the beginning of the game, the idea with the capital factories is that they're shitty. So instead of building a train, you build like one of the fucking push carts, and you have like 2 wardens there just like, we're gonna get to the front eventually, man. We're gonna get there.
I remember that discussion. I remember that.
But then, like, the thing is that you can bring like 60, 80, maybe even 100 spawn supplies on that push cart to the front line. And it's provided almost for free by the capital region because it's more of a basic resource. And then the idea is that you start to upgrade things, and then you bring tech parts from the front line, or civic materials might be a good upgrade material source for these capital factories. And you bring that back to the back line with that little push cart. And then by the next time you come up, instead of having this little push cart, you have like a little tiny coal-burning locomotive. And it's like, yeah, guys, look at all the stuff we can bring. And then you start to bring more and more tech parts, and you start upgrading it. And then eventually you don't come to the front line to bring resources in. Instead, you have like 20 guys in the back of your train, and you have an artillery cannon on it. And there's like machine guns out of the side. And the front is just an armored plow. And you just
that
ram
sounds
into
like
the enemy train
Factorio.
station.
That sounds like Factorio. You start with shit, you get a little bit less shit, and then exponentially you start getting this amazing, incredible crap.
And then I died because a train ran me over because I was standing on the track.
That's mandatory.
Factorio.
The idea is just that I feel like late game Foxhole should be crazy. It should be like people dying in the droves, but early game Foxhole should be like about trying to eke out your meager existence, farming potatoes off of the underbarrel of society.
I'm down for all that.
That's actually an interesting thing to end on. There is how long should a war last? A world conquest. You know, what do you think a good war?
With
Full release World Conquest War.
Full release World Conquest. So with the maximum number of players on the front line and with like half pop or a third pop on the back line, I'd say like 7+ days. Because think about it. You're now having like, 120 at least players fighting constantly with maybe like 40 guys doing just pure logistics, crating up as many materials as they can and then just throwing them to the front line. So these people on the front are just able to constantly fight. And then meanwhile, you're sort of like trying to eke out a little bit of civic material from the few town halls that you do have under your control, and you bring them back to the factory, and then the factory starts to pump out more things, and you get like artillery strikes onto the front and so on and so forth. And things just exponentially get out of control until like 10, 20, 30 people die in like a single minute span period, only to respawn and charge the front lines again. And then just grenades everywhere.
Well, and, you know, thinking about that is we're going to have 6 maps available to us soon. Now, we can't yet fill 6 maps at 60, you know, per side in any way, shape, or form right now, but especially when we hit, you know, higher player base, we could definitely do that. But we're supposed to get, 8 maps at some point? We're supposed to get 2 more to the south?
Maybe even more.
Even more, and I would love to see
this map is the last planned one. So, but they do want to go more to the west and the south of Upper Heartland. So who knows?
I think a few weeks sounds like a healthy amount of time for like a game to kind of go through its course. Not like with everything we have right now. I'm thinking about like eventually we're gonna have harvesters, right? Eventually we're gonna have tanks and maybe all these capital regions and all this crazy stuff. I think a few weeks sounds reasonable.
Yeah,
definitely. One and that goes along with dropping the tech parts down another 20%. Dang it, Markfoot.
I imagine
the salt is real there, but I understand it's gone up and down and up and down.
So that brings up an interesting idea. What if there were like tech fields where they had a low scrap output, maybe like half the normal scrap, but they gave like guaranteed 1 tech part per pile, but the problem is that they don't come in until like 24 hours has passed in game.
That's a good idea.
Imagine being able to harvest the husk of a vehicle that you just destroyed.
Yes.
Should we keep going, or should we save this for next time?
I think we are getting on some strong tangents. So we're kind of agreed. You know, anywhere from 7 to 10 days. 10 days would probably be a sweet spot for a war. You think?
10 days would probably be like when we're starting to grudgingly just punch each other in the fields because all of the Logi guys have like, no, fuck this, I'm out.
You're running at people with a shovel and like an axe or something, or a knife.
Oh man, it just
or a rifle with no ammo that has a bayonet, or just using the gun itself as like a melee weapon.
Yes,
that'd be funny.
You know what, guys? If there are any devs watching, need a slice of life update. When you're out of ammo with a weapon and you try to fire, you just swing it at them.
I suggested an idea to be able to throw all items. So like, you got some extra ammo, throw it. You got a wrench, throw it. You got a hammer, throw it. You can. And if
take
you hit
my
someone,
radio.
Yeah, if you hit someone, you get to stagger them depending on how heavy it was, or just stagger them.
I would just carry around inventories.
Run up and hit him.
Inventories of BMATs just to throw.
Yes, you throw one beam at a time, and you're just chucking I-beams at someone.
No. You just throw scrap at them. Scrap blast.
Scrap blast.
Pocket scrap. Yeah.
Scrap blast. Okay, I think we're getting off tangent here. So I think, we've gone about an hour. That's like our kind of sweet spot.
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna kind of call it here, but we are hopefully going to be doing this every other Thursday, more or less.
Bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly, opposite of the dev stream. So we have something to ramble at you about, like we're really good at.
Yeah, we'll have a whole other
you
devblog
people-
and everything.
And like if anybody out there like wants to at least listen to something about Foxhole or watch something, they can have this. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is going to be on the VODs here. Oh God, it's a voice. This is going to go up on YouTube at some point as well. So we'll get this up on YouTube. It'll be on the Twitch VODs for a little bit. Past that, let us know what you guys think. What would you like to see? Did we go too short? Did we go too long? Am I too long? I don't know.
Did we ramble too much?
I am the king of rambling, but I gotta say, I got some
We didn't
competition
talk about
today.
wheelbarrows, guys.
This is up there.
So yeah, so Thursday, June 8th. It's already gonna be June. Wow. That's next
Oh boy,
week.
I got testing next week.
Oh, testing.
Oh boy.
Because I chose to, not because it's an end of course. Because I chose to.
He chose.
Nice.
I chose to kill
He
myself.
chose. You made this choice. You brought this to yourself.
Oh,
So
I
anyways-
also want to mention
Ooh,
that
mention.
there is a new channel on the Discord, the lore discussion.
Yes.
Ah,
So
yes.
You guys can go discuss your theories and things you find in game, like notes. Go scour the maps for lore, whatever you want, pretty much.
Quickly,
Just, as long
everybody,
as it's not off topic.
install Dev Branch. Go to the new map.
Go.
Look
Be
for
free.
lore.
It's a cool map. Go check it out.
Yeah, it's up there until what, Friday morning? They said their target was, so that's
Tomorrow
pretty good.
morning, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And I'll say this too: if any of you find new lore out there, I will make sure you guys get a shout out in the chat. I will make sure of it, one way or another.
Yeah, just send it to Sir, Casper, myself. I'm not sure who else.
Eventually,
sure.
the Foxhole lore discussion will be like trying to uncover lore in Dark Souls.
Mhm. And
I'm pretty sure Matt will be watching that channel a lot now. Maybe. Who knows?
bonus. Here's a bonus. If any of you can get the devs to admit to something that's not already been revealed, that's a bonus to me.
Oh yeah, we found out that
Special
there
sticker. You get a
may
sticker.
or may not be a civil war. So
May or may not
well,
be. Wow,
we
how
already
specific.
knew. Yeah. He like Matt said that like no, there is no civil war, and then I asked him again, and he was like, "It's up to you guys." So I don't know now.
We'll never know.
So of course,
Confused.
yeah, we'll never know. So of course, like I said though, keep a lookout for this on YouTube, Twitch, whatever. We are on Discord, our own Discord, so you could feel free to stop by there. But you all know us. I mean, I don't know who this Duke Salt guy is. Who knows who this?
I'm just
guy
here, man.
is?
I don't know how I got in this.
Yeah,
in the
like
first
why
place.
is he here? Get him out of
I'm
here.
hanging on with
Just
every
stumbled
finger I
on,
get.
instant invite. Who are you people? Joins the Ramblefest. And if you want to, if you have any great ideas you want to share, or if you even want to ramble with us sometime, definitely let us know. And that's it for now. We will see you in a couple weeks. Ta-ta.
Have a good time. Goodbye.
Thanks.
Goodbye.
See ya.
Sugliet.